It is I, Wacky Anime What If. I am going to now present you with What If Subaru was Muzan's reincarnation. We're going to start off when Muzan was facing against Tanjiro and all the Demon Corps. He was actually winning in this version. The thing is, he was betrayed by one of his own demons, because they overpowered his actual, will they was trying to imprint on them, and decided to go ahead and pierce Muzan while he was busy. He pierced him with an actual Nichiru blade, which I might be pronouncing it wrong, but sorry about that. And Muzan was in pure rage and hatred, squashed the demon's head, but then Tanjiro was using sun breathing, and ended up fiercely striking down at Muzan. Muzan was dodging, avoiding it, but he couldn't avoid for long because, well, everyone else was still attacking. They finally ended up defeating Muzan, and they thought the nightmare was completely over. What they didn't know was Muzan's soul itself left the body and went through a portal, and his actual form, he formed in a dark abyss, and he was stuck there for millions and millions of years, until one day there was a light. He saw a light. Muzan walked towards it, and then he literally just woke up and noticed that he could hear crying from a kid. He was looking through the eyes, but he couldn't move or anything. Then he realized he's probably a passenger, or, part of a reincarnation cycle. He's heard of it before, but he never actually believed it. He thought it was what the lesser human beings referred to just so they wouldn't be scared of their impending demise. But since this was happening to him, he thought it was a very good chance. He could influence or take control of that host. Only thing is, he couldn't exactly get his voice through because it was just a baby at this point. That baby's name was known as Subaru Natsuki. Subaru Natsuki was an ordinary kid all the way up until the age of 5. One day, at the age of 5, when he went into his little classroom, these kids were picking on him because he was different. He just seemed odd. The aura around him seemed more mature than others. They just didn't like that. So they jumped him at the playground, and Subaru on the inside was wondering, why me? Why would they jump me, of all people? And he heard a voice from Muzan saying, "It's because you're weak." He didn't know it was Muzan, and he ended up saying, "Who the fuck is that?" He said that out loud. They all turned around, they saw nothing, and then they just continuously started beating him, thinking he was just crazy. And once they were finally done, they left, and Subaru was just thinking, what the hell was that voice? Then Muzan started to speak and say, "Do you want to become stronger?" And he said, I want to become strong enough so that this never happens again." He says it out loud. And Muzan in his head was like, "Very good. How about this? I'll give you a fraction of my power." And Subaru says, "That would be wonderful." So he gives Subaru some of his power. He's physically stronger now. The thing is, he doesn't have the weakness of, the sun, because he's still human. The thing is, he was very excited and everything, and, went up to the bullies that were walking away from him, and he beat the shit out of them. He uppercutted them, he slapped them into walls, which broke a lot of their bones. He grabbed one of them, pinned him against the tree, started uppercutting and literally gut punching them. And Muzan in his head was just laughing, saying, "You should trample on those that are weaker or lesser beings than yourself. That is just the way the world must work." And then Subaru realized that what he was doing was really wrong, so he just let go of him and walked away. The teacher saw this, and Subaru was suspended for a whole week. They were about to expel him, but then they realized, well, he was defending himself, though he went overboard. So they sent him home. Subaru's mom and dad were very, very worried for his well-being, because he was being picked on, and the fact that he had snapped. So they started asking many questions, and he said, I can hear a voice in my head. And they're very concerned about this, because that sounds like crazy talk. And then he says his name is Muzan. And they're like, it's probably just an imaginary friend. So they just brush it off. And Subaru goes up to his room, goes to sleep, and now he's in his mindscape. He sees a man in a suit, and has a hat on. And he looks at him and he's like, "Are you Michael Jackson?" And then Muzan says, "What's a Michael Jackson?" And then he says, "You don't know what a Michael Jackson is? What Michael Jackson is?" He's like, I don't know that." And then Muzan literally searched through his memories and is like, "No, I'm not a pop singer. I am not Michael Jackson. I am totally not that." Because he looked into the memories and finally found out what Michael Jackson was. And then he ended up walking up to Subaru and said, "So, I'm going to train you. Since you're my incarnation, I don't want you to be so pathetically weak." And then Subaru literally just didn't really mind him calling him that. And said, "You look very cool. I like the suit." And then Muzan actually, on the inside, he's like freaking out because no one's actually complimented him on anything. And he literally just, like, on the outside had like a cold face saying, "Thanks. Anyway, I'm here to teach you how to control some of my powers. So we're going to be sparring." So they start sparring in the mindscape. He starts trying to punch him, and Muzan literally just gives no fucks and kicks him like 10 feet up in the mindscape. And then he falls down and cracks his neck and just dies. But the thing is, in the mindscape, he can't actually die, so he just comes back up. And he's feeling the pain, just so you know. It's building up his pain tolerance every time that he starts sparring with Muzan. And it just went on the same exact thing for a year. To where he just had built up a huge pain tolerance. And Muzan was impressed by his actual, pain tolerance. He isn't really bothered by pain that much anymore. And Muzan was actually smiling a bit. And in his head he was thinking, is this what it feels like to raise a son? I actually kind of like kids. So he starts, conversing with Subaru throughout the years. They start getting closer and closer. He's about 10 years old now. And they were always sparring the mindscape. He was going to school. People didn't really mess with him anymore because they realized how strong he was. They actually respected him for it. Unlike Muzan, his ideology is different. He doesn't want to be feared. He doesn't want to, make humanity into demons. But then again, he actually changed Muzan's perspective by talking to Muzan and saying, what you did in the past was try to change humanity into demons because you thought they were lesser beings. The thing is, everyone's born in their own different ways and unique ways. If everyone's the same thing, wouldn't they fight over dominance? And wouldn't that not be peace? The so-called peace that you said? And Muzan actually started thinking about this and said, you might actually be right about that. Considering that my own demons betrayed me at the end, I should have probably not just turned every human that I thought was interesting. So they actually started bonding a little. And Muzan's original plan was to, try to take over Subaru and just erase him from existence and take over his body. But now he's actually starting to, think of different plans because he became friends with Subaru, even though he didn't want to admit that out in the open to Subaru. But in Muzan's, separate part of Subaru's brain, like Subaru's mindscape, yeah, was just thinking that. And one day Subaru was walking and saw this little antique shop, and he saw Muzan's suit and hats and his shoes. And he thought it was really cool, and Muzan said, could you buy this for me, please? He was asking, not demanding of Subaru. Subaru was like, sure, anything for a friend. And Muzan in the mindscape actually blushed a little bit. And Subaru noticed that and said, oh, that's kind of cute. And then he was chuckling, everyone was looking at him oh, that kid's insane. Why is he just chuckling? There's nothing really funny happening. And then Muzan said, shut the hell up, Subaru. And they just, buy the suit. He buys the suit with all the money he had left. And Muzan kind of felt bad because he knows that he was saving up for a few new video games or stuff like that. But he really wanted his suit because it was the exact suit from millenniums ago in the Demon Slayer world, when there were still people that used breathing techniques. So he started thinking about breathing techniques and said, maybe if I teach him breathing techniques, because my demon powers aren't really that accessible to Subaru. He can't access too much of Muzan's powers. And he realized this because he only saw him ever use 2 abilities. Well, he has 3. One is just the demon's, physique, strength. He had, mostly demonish strength. He was pretty strong, about the rank of a lower moon. And his actual, speed was about that of an average demon, to be honest. Not really that much of a threat in speed-wise, but still good enough to take down a few humans. And Muzan was thinking maybe if I teach him breathing styles, he could make up for his lack of speed. So Muzan looked through his memories, and Subaru already bought the suit, was walking home, and then Muzan said, hey, do you want me to teach you a breathing style? I'll teach you the breathing, method, and you can try to make your own style, if you can. But you might not have the aptitude. And the Subaru was like, that sounds pretty fun. I might as well do it. So he went in the back of his house in the yard. His parents are always watching him and noticed weird stuff. So they looked at him from the inside of the house, and Muzan instructed him to breathe very smoothly and calm. Only entice yourself in the breathing style. Only entice yourself in the air. Let the air go all throughout your body, through your lungs, and expand. And Subaru was listening to this and did what Muzan said, and he was like a natural at it. Muzan was actually shocked that he was very good at it, and he actually clapped in his mindscape, saying, very good. Now punch that tree over there. So he punched the tree, and it just instantly fell down. He didn't use any of Muzan's strength at all, though he ended up panting afterwards because he couldn't keep the breathing up for too long. I mean, he's only 10. So he ended up instructing Subaru on how to make these gorns. So he made gorns and started blowing into it, and his lung capacity increased a lot. And his parents were very, very scared of Subaru because his strength was inhuman. His speed was just terrifying. And sometimes, whenever he got mad, his eyes turned pure red, exactly like Muzan's. Sometimes Subaru let Muzan take control because he felt bad that he was just watching his life, and he never really got a chance to live a happy life or anything. he knew what Muzan did, and he knew it was all wrong, but he couldn't help but feel sympathy. I mean, he is his incarnation. So he let Muzan actually, take control sometimes and, eat ice cream and stuff. And sometimes thugs would try to surround Subaru, and Muzan would take control and just obliterate them all. The only thing is, he always saw that Muzan went a little too far. It's not that he's trying to kill all of them, it's just his strength is not used to limiting himself so much. Because these humans are weaker than the, Demon Slayer humans. The humans in Demon Slayer. So every time he pimp slapped one of them, their heads would just fucking explode. So whenever he was going towards thugs and stuff, he always let Subaru fight them because he could hold back. Muzan wasn't the type to hold back really, like, a lot to that point. So they always got along, and Subaru's finally, at the age of 15, went back to his house, and they got to the backyard where they usually start practicing with Gorns, and he actually exploded the giant Gorn, and then he said, I think I'm ready to make a breathing style now. And then Muzan was curious what style he was going to manifest. And then Subaru literally focused into, not his mindscape, but his very own soul, and started thinking, what should I do? And he was also questioning, why did he always want himself to be strong? And then all these negative thoughts went into his head. He ended up thinking, I wanted to be strong because everyone always pushes around the weak. They always think that they're undermining them just for simply living in the same area or being in the same classroom. And then all of these negative thoughts were running over him, and the little wooden sword that he decides to pick up, literally a dark fog appears all over the sword. His veins start popping out all throughout his arm. Completely pitch black veins pop out of him. And then he slashes a tree with the actual fog. The fog literally decays the tree. The tree completely decays from a single slash. Part of it decays, not the whole tree. But it was a good part, and a few branches decayed off the tree into dust. Which Muzan was actually shocked, because that's a very powerful breathing style that he's never seen before. But he knows that if Subaru can actually master this, he could be on par with Muzan. Probably even stronger than Tanjiro was when he became a demon. And he was actually very impressed and happy, because he viewed Subaru as more of a son. And he's like, you did good, son. He says that to Subaru, and Subaru said, hey, old man, I'm not your son. And then he's like, nope, you're definitely my son. And he's like, okay, I guess so, Dad. And they start, like, laughing, because they always do some comedy skits. And, as the time progressed, he got better at his actual skills. He unlocked about two other skills to go with his breathing style. He also taught Muzan how to use the breathing style, but Muzan didn't use a sword. Muzan just used his hand, and he could only learn the first move, which caused decay. But it could only be used in a certain radius, didn't decay a whole body. But let's say if you pierce someone in the gut, he could decay their entire organs that came in contact with the hands, or the fingertips. Which Muzan was very impressed about. Subaru tried to use it with his hand, but every time he did that, he just injured himself. So he kind of stopped and just used a wooden sword. Or, a katana. Because in Japan, you can have a mini katana in his Japan. Like his world. You can have a mini katana. It's a katana dagger, to be exact. I'm just going to call it a dagger, though. So he uses a dagger, and he's really good with the dagger. His parents, literally at this time, decided to move out because they're really scared of their son, because they see him with a dagger practicing outside in the backyard for what they see is no reason. And they've been watching this for years, but they can't really call the police or anything. I mean, he hasn't hurt anyone or really done anything illegal. So yeah, they basically dipped on him when he was the age of 16. And Subaru was pretty depressed, but then Muzan said, "Hey, cheer up. They might have left you, but I'll never leave you." Subaru smiled, and he said thanks to Muzan. And he said, "Do you want to go out for some ice cream?" He was like, "Hell yeah, I do." Because he learned one ability that was pretty useful. He can manifest Muzan out of dark smoke, like a dark fog, and it manifests Muzan out of his mental state. For about 30 minutes he can do it, until his breathing becomes too frantic and he can't summon him anymore. So they went out for ice cream. He summoned Muzan out, and they're sitting down. They're eating their ice cream, and Subaru's keeping up his breathing while eating the ice cream. He thinks this is more of his training. No one else can really see Muzan currently, because he's still partially in fog form. All they see is a dark fog next to Subaru, and they're very freaked out. So they're eating, and Muzan pats him on the back, saying, "It's okay, it's okay. I'm here if you need me." Still, sympathizing with him over, the fact that his parents abandoned him. So he went back to his house with Muzan, and Muzan was back in his body. They ended up chatting more, and Muzan was like, "Whenever you go out, could you just wear my suit, please?" He's like, "That's embarrassing wearing a suit everywhere, and I don't want people saying, please say he, or doing the moonwalk or something." And then Muzan busted out laughing, because he gets the references he was making. And then Subaru was like, "How about this? I'll wear the suit whenever I go out, if, and only if, you read manga." So we got, Muzan to read manga. And Muzan really enjoyed manga. He actually liked it a lot. So Subaru over the years always wore a suit. He always went to school with a suit. Everyone ended up calling him the fancy man, or, the gentleman. He always got asked out. He always went on dates and stuff. He was pretty experienced with women at this time. He was very kind. They actually saw him as more of like a big brother figure in his schools. Whenever he went to a school, majority of the men would think of him as a big brother, and majority of the females would think of him as, a potential partner. So through all this, Muzan would always, be impressed with how much of a smooth operator that Subaru was. And he'd be happy for him. He'd be clapping his head, thinking, "Good for you." So, yeah, this one time, Subaru, when he was about 17, went into McDonald's, and it was a McDonald's, like, across from his house. So he went there, and, yeah, he was, like, eating a McDouble, and he let Muzan share his sense of taste. So Muzan could actually taste inside the mindscape. And he said, this McDouble's delicious." He was just saying, "Hey, can you order a Big Mac?" And he was like, Subaru was like, "Sure, but that's extra money, right?" He's like, "Come on, don't be a cheapskate." And then he was laughing a little bit. People at McDonald's always saw him appearing there, but he was always alone. But he seemed to mutter out loud sometimes. So they thought of him as the kook, the crazy guy. But he always minded himself. So they thought he had a mental disability or something. They really couldn't judge him too much, though, because he might have had like a Bluetooth earphone in. But sometimes he put that in just so they wouldn't look at him as much. So he went up and ordered a Big Mac. He ate the Big Mac, and he realized he had to go use the restroom. So he goes to use the restroom. He opens the restroom door. He goes in the stall, relieves himself, and opens the stall up. He's about to walk towards to wash his hands. Right when he's done washing his hands, this big, fat, old guy walks into the door and just opens it for Subaru. Looks like he's opening it for Subaru. And Muzan said, "There's something up with that old guy. I'd be careful." And then Subaru was just like, "There's nothing to really be careful of. I mean, he doesn't really look like he's menacing or anything." So Subaru is about to walk out, and the old guy grabs him by the arm, pushes him inside the bathroom, and starts trying to force himself onto him. And this pisses off Subaru, and Muzan's even more pissed. Muzan literally just takes control of Subaru and just flicks the old man in the face one time. The head fucking flies off. And it literally goes through the door, and everyone sees a fucking head there. They're all screaming and running out, calling the police and all that stuff. And then Muzan literally does the cleanup by using his absorption ability, which Subaru can use the absorption ability too. Absorbs the body and the blood, and then just absorbs the head. And then just walks out of the actual McDonald's. The police arrive, they see him, and they ask what was happening, and he said, "There was some rapist that was in there, and he tried to force himself on someone." They were like, "Oh, okay. Wait, what's up with your eyes? They're completely crimson red." He's like, "Oh, I have a certain condition, sir." He's like, "The condition is, well, I can't really, be out in the sunlight too much, or my eyes, change a little." And Muzan doesn't have a weakness of sunlight because he's in Subaru's body. And Subaru is still human. Even when Muzan takes control, there's still part of his human side left. Which helps out a lot, because he doesn't burn now. So the police officer just just walks into the restaurant, sees nothing wrong, and looks back towards the kid, about to try to talk to him, and Muzan just disappears. And Subaru literally is in Muzan's head, his head, talking to Muzan while Muzan's in control. And he was saying, "Thanks, Muzan. So, what do you want to do? I'll let you take control for about an hour or so. Is there anything you wanted to do?" And he was like, "I always wanted to go to an amusement park. I don't see what was amusing about them." So he goes to the amusement park, has a lot of fun, but honestly, it was very, very funny because his eyes kind of lit up like a kid, and he was doing the Ferris round and all that stuff, and Subaru was laughing because he actually saw Muzan was having pretty much a lot of fun, actually. Although he didn't like when people try to talk to him, though. He kind of just ignored them and shut them down. He was always, distant towards people, except for Subaru. Muzan only just really cared for Subaru. That was about just it. He didn't really think of Subaru as a lesser being, but he thinks of humans as lesser beings still. But he doesn't want to change them. He thinks they're fine the way they are, though. It's only because of the millions of years of traveling in darkness and thinking only to himself before being reincarnated inside of Subaru. But anyway, yeah, so they had a good time. Subaru got control back from Muzan, and he went to bed. He went to his mindscape. He went home, went to bed, went to his mindscape, started chatting with Muzan. They hung out a little bit. They started reading manga together in the mindscape, because he can summon mangas that he's already read. And he saw that Muzan was actually reading One Piece, and he was like, "I actually like the character known as Ace. I think he's pretty cool. I actually like his fire abilities, though I also don't at the same time because of an incident with a person that had a blade of fire, with fire coming out of it." And then Subaru was like, "Yeah, I mean, I think he's pretty cool too, though." And Muzan was like, "Honestly, I'm starting to think I might understand why they stopped me." And he started to reflect on all the bad things he did, started to try to change a little bit more, but keep in mind, change is very hard to do. So he asked Subaru if he could help him with changing himself. Subaru's like, of course, I'll always be there for you. Just like you'll always be there for me. They both smiled and stuff. Muzan actually, thought about all the things in his past. He felt a lot of remorse and said to Subaru, is it okay if I let out some of my emotions? And Subaru was like, it's okay. So Subaru literally looked at Muzan. Muzan was kind of devastated thinking about what he did in the past and cried for a few hours thinking he really shouldn't have done any of that stuff. It was just stupid. It was awful. So many people that he killed, so many families he separated, so many people he altered into demons, and that they could never have a normal life. He felt quite remorseful, actually. Which you think would be off of Muzan, but keep in mind, before he was, reincarnated into Subaru, he had to spend millions of years constantly thinking in a blank space by himself. So Subaru comforted him, he hugged Muzan, pat him on the back and saying, it's gonna be okay. I'm here for you. Muzan was breaking down, Subaru comforted him, they just hugged it out in the mindscape, and then it was time for Subaru to go. Subaru said, if you ever want to talk, I'll always be there for you. Same if I want to talk to you, I know you'll be there for me. And then Muzan says, kid, I actually care for you a lot. And I've actually never cared for pretty much anything, really. Except for immortality and stuff. And Subaru kind of smiled, knowing that Muzan cared for him. And then he left, and Muzan is a separate part of his mind that Subaru can't unlock. Started thinking, he likes Subaru, but he wants to have a body of his own. And he wants to, hang out with Subaru still, though. Didn't want to erase him from his consciousness, just to take over his body. So he was plotting different plans. He still hasn't changed from all of his evil ways. He just changed a lot for the better. That's all. He's still trying to think of a way to overthrow Subaru. Because there were times in the past where he tried to take over Subaru, but Subaru got stronger by sense, and he was too prideful to be, taken control of by Muzan. Which was a really shock to Muzan. Muzan always admired Subaru for it, though. But Muzan, a separate, part of his mind, ended up wanting a new body, and Subaru knew this, that Muzan wanted a body for himself. That's why he always let him take control for a while, just so he could have some fun time and stuff. But he knew it wasn't right to have someone inside of his body just being a passenger and seeing someone else enjoy their life. So while he was walking to school, and he was going through the day, he started talking to Muzan in his mental scape while they were in the classroom, and he told Muzan that if he perfects his breathing style enough, he might be able to manifest him an actual, his physical body from the past. And Muzan ends up thinking that's actually possible if he can get to a good enough length in the length of time. And yeah, Muzan actually agrees to this idea. And then Subaru says, I'm gonna need you to train me a little bit more, though. And I might need your demon powers just in case anything ever happens. So, could you teach me some of the abilities I can actually use without your help? Just in case I can't contact you or something? Because Muzan sometimes goes into a deep sleep. Because he's inside of Subaru's soul, and his mindscape, it's just, he's not all there. Most of him is there, but not all of his power is completely there yet. He's regaining it slowly. But the thing is, Muzan tells him that he can use absorption, and he can use, memory. Like, he can look into people's memories. But he also noted that he evolved the ability when he reincarnated into Subaru. The ability might have evolved, so he can actually show people memories. And then Subaru thought that was pretty cool. He could use absorption, and he could use, memories. Just show people memories, or just look into their memories. He also had nearly unlimited stamina, and he had relatively good strength, about a lower moon demon strength. And he had about, a relatively high demon strength now, well, high demon, speed. So he was pretty impressed that he was able to do this. And then Muzan taught him a little bit more. He said you can also use the mouth suction things. You can make little mouths on your body to usually chew into your food or something. That's what I did with it. And then Subaru thought, wait, couldn't I use... So, he was thinking this, and the teacher literally slammed his desk, because they're still in class. And he said, Subaru, were you paying attention? And Subaru was like, yeah, I actually was. Teach. He let out a little bit of bloodlust. The teacher shut up immediately and just walked away. Just went up back to the front. And Muzan in his mind just chuckled, saying, what a pussy. And Subaru said, I know, right? He said that out loud. Everyone, looked at him a little bit, and then they just turned around. They just didn't want the hands. So, Subaru was thinking about doing the idea that he was thinking of, but, he realized that they needed more food. So he went to the convenience store, and, well, when he went to the convenience store, he went through the sliding doors. They opened for him. The actual person at the cash register was a female this time. Looked at him and thought he was actually pretty hot. Because, let me just tell you, Subaru's quite the looker. Subaru looks almost like Muzan. Honestly. He looks quite similar to Muzan in this What If. So, literally, Muzan ended up was in Subaru's mind, and he started saying, when am I going to get some grandkids? Or some actual, when are you going to make some children? And so I can have some grandkids, or, some actual kids or nephews. Because Subaru doesn't know what to classify Muzan as. Sometimes he acts more like an uncle, sometimes he acts more like a dad, sometimes he acts more like a best friend. So he just swaps out the different phrases sometimes. Yeah. So, yeah. He gets the potato chips. He ends up getting a sports drink this time. And he ends up just walking out. And right before he's about to walk out, he hears a faint voice. So does Muzan. Muzan sees this dark aura coming in. And all these hands appear inside of Subaru. Inside of his very soul. In a corner of it. And he's wondering what the fuck that is. And he lets out murderous intent, and what we all know as Sadala, trying to install Return by Death, a portion of her soul, apparently, literally is shivering and just stays in the corner. Stays far away from Muzan in his soul. And Muzan sees it's not hostile, so he just doesn't actually try to kill it or anything. But he notifies Subaru that there's another occupant in his soul, in his mindscape. And Subaru's pretty weirded out. He blinks, and then he's in the ReZero world, and he's like, what the fuck just happened? And then Muzan looks at Sadala in the mindscape, walks up to her, chokes her, and says, what did you do? And the real Sadala in ReZero is getting choked also. Because part of her soul is literally being choked, and if that dies, she dies. If it dies completely, the soul itself does. Yeah. So, she explains what happened. Like, she gave Subaru return by death, so he can, even if he dies, he comes back to life at a certain save point. And that's completely infinite as long as she's there. And also the fact that this world has magic and all that stuff. Explains it to Muzan. And she also explains, like, various other things. Muzan keeps some of it to himself. And then lets go of her and just walks away. And goes back to the middle of the mindscape where he usually is. He always has a chair that he sits in. He sits down. And then he notifies Subaru, who's on the outside just looking at the world. He notifies Subaru that she's in a new world. And apparently there's furries, there's cat girls, elves, and all that stuff. There's also a lot of different dangers, which Subaru also acknowledged there's probably is. Because all the fantasy novels and stuff that he read, or animes he watched, there was always dragons and stuff. So he's actually prepared, not thinking he's the main protagonist, because anyone can be stronger than him, which Muzan instilled that in him. Because Muzan was way too arrogant, is the reason why he, met his end, in his own opinion. So, Subaru was observing the area. People were staring at him, thinking he was pretty attractive. Some tried to talk to him. He just asked them questions about the area. They told him it was in Lugonia. I don't know if I said that right. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced or said it wrong. And he ended up, walking around. He saw a bathroom area and was about to walk in because he had to use the restroom. And then Muzan said, wait. Those are for beast women. You're going to see a lot of furry females in there if you go in there. And they're probably going to beat the shit out of you. And then he's like, oh, I'm so glad that you told me about that. Then he said, I guess I'll just go to the other one. And he opens the other door. And he's like, oh wait, I mixed it up. That was actually the male restroom over there. You were heading towards the male restroom. And then all the females see him. They start chasing him, trying to slap the shit out of him. And he starts running, saying, damn you, Muzan! And Muzan in his mindscape was kind of chuckling. Was chuckling a lot. And so was Satella in the corner. But as soon as he saw Satella chuckling, just stared at her with menacing eyes. And she shut up. To be honest, Muzan just strikes fear into Satella. A lot. So, yeah. Subaru starts running. He runs to the side where the apple guy was. He runs to the side into the alleyway. And then he, is just not tired, but mentally exhausted from what he just did and had to do. But anyway, he was in the alleyway thinking, where should he go? He doesn't know what place to stay. And he doesn't really know what to do particularly. And then all of a sudden, 3 thugs walk into the alleyway. They see a man looking really sharp in a suit. And they're like, wow, it's just a pretty boy. How about we go ahead and go teach the pretty boy what we can do? We're going to go ahead and rob him. He looks like he's rich. So they literally go up to Subaru. The blue-haired guy, which I'm going to call Dave, okay? No, Roger. Roger. Oh, God. Anyway, so Roger pulls out his two swords and points at him and says, give us all your money. Gives everything that's in the bag and everything on you. And then Muzan is in the mindscapes literally saying, they picked the wrong target. They don't know how unlucky they are. I don't even need to come out. I think Subaru could deal with this. Subaru literally looks at them, smiles, walks up towards them, starts laughing, and then the blue-haired guy is really panicking. The big guy literally tries to throw a swing at him. Yeah, Subaru puts up one finger. Literally, the punch couldn't go past that one finger. And then he flicks the fist the whole fucking arm exploded. He grabs the big guy in the head and tears it off in front of him. And the short guy, which I'm known as Will is just like very, very shocked and just shit himself, like right on command, shit himself. And started trying to run. And Subaru, he already knows this isn't Japan, and he could have died if he was any weaker, or if he was like weak in general. So he doesn't really want to show mercy towards people that are going after his life. That's just the natural instinct that Muzan had, and it kind of imprinted on Subaru. So if someone aims for his life, he's not really gonna wanna, spare them. Usually. So when the shorty tried to run out of the alleyway, Subaru literally, all he did was ended up using his breathing technique and sped up right behind him, grabbed him, threw him back into the alleyway, and he flew like meters away into the alleyway. And he hit a building, and that building's wall just crumbled on him. And it crushed pretty much every bone in his body. The guy with blue hair, Roger, with his blades, tried to charge at him. And, all he did was let the actual swords go into him. And then he literally just morphed his body around the swords, like the flesh came out and just chomped the swords. The mouths, came out of his flesh and chomped the swords. And Roger literally had the shit your pants face. He was fucking terrified. And he was like, what is that monster? He starts trying to run past him. No, Subaru gut punched him. His entire gut fucking exploded. And then Subaru didn't think he had enough yet, while he's bleeding out on the ground. So he uses his breathing style, puts the little dagger he had in his back pocket, behind his back. It was settled right behind him, behind his actual, suit. He pulled it out. He stabbed him in the head, a little bit in the head, not to where it went into his brain, but just where it just barely penetrated. And he was screaming out in anguish. And then he used his breathing style and started decaying the inside of his brain slowly, making it slowly start decaying, and made sure that the only thing that would be left is the pain sensors. So all he was feeling was pain. And he didn't completely decay it to where his brain was dead, no. He left him in a state of consistent pain, kicked him, and used some of his demon blood to heal him, not to turn him into a demon, because Muzan's blood mutated to where he can actually heal. So he healed him to where his guts weren't spilling out anymore, and he looked like he was perfectly normal. Except, honestly, he could only just feel pain. The wind touching him was pain. Felt like there were chains going inside of his skin, just digging deeper and ripping his bones out. It felt like that to him. And this shorty over there, Will, was crying and was in fear when he was heading up towards him. And Subaru grabbed his head and crushed it. And just, devoured the body with absorption. And then Felt was literally running through the alleyway and saw this. Yeah, she was about to, try to parkour upwards. No, she ran the exact opposite way and bumped into Amelia. And Amelia saw that she had the actual crest and tried to get it back from her. But all she did was jump over Amelia's head and run away. Amelia was about to actually, go get her. But she already left by the time she noticed that she jumped over. Immediately gone, like the wind. She looked over and noticed that Subaru had one unconscious guy, one person in constant pain in front of him. And she was instinctively in attack position, and Puck was out and looking at Subaru. And Subaru explained the whole situation to them from afar and had his hands up because he didn't want to hurt anyone. And then they understood what happened. He didn't tell that he murdered anyone. He just told that this one guy tried to mug him, so he made him feel true pain, so he would never do such a thing again. Amelia thought it was pretty twisted, but Puck understood, because it's kind of survival of the fittest. That's what Puck at least thought, but never would say that to Amelia. So, Subaru ended up asking what were they trying to chase that girl for, and she explained that there was a crest that was stolen from her, and then Subaru was like, would you like my assistance in this? And then Muzan also said, I don't think you should get involved with her. You already know that this is bad because of danger sense, right? Because you can sense the danger since you have some of my demonic abilities, my demon abilities. He talked in his head and told Muzan, I do. The only thing is, I don't want to leave someone that needs help. That's purely innocent. I can see it in her eyes. She's pretty much innocent, like a child. So I think I'll help her. Muzan smiled a little bit, noticing that he's actually a very good person. Someone that he's trying to strive to actually be like. Though Muzan's twisted personality is still there, but he just can't help it. It's hard to change. So, Muzan says, alright, fine. So Subaru ends up telling her he's going to assist her, and she said, I can't do that for free. And he's like, how about this? You get me a place to stay. Then we're even. Since you won't owe me anything. That fair? And, yeah. She was like, sure, I think my benefactor would let you stay if you got the insignia for me. And Puck was literally looking at him and saw that there was a lot of demonic energy coming from him. And some other strange energy. So Puck asked what he was, and then Subaru was kind of caught off guard. He said, I'm actually human, but I have no reason to lie to you. So, is it okay if I show you the memories? And then Puck is like, wait, what? And then he explains that he has an ability to show memories to people. So Puck says, only on me, I don't want you hurting Amelia in case that was just a ploy or something. So Subaru shows Puck all the memories of Muzan and himself. Puck is fucking horrified of what's inside of him. He's really scared. It even made the actual beast of Apocalypse, Puck himself, fucking have fear, and teeth was chattering. Muzan laughed inside of his head about this, and then Subaru talked in his head and said, that's not nice if you're trying to change. Don't laugh at other people when they're scared. And then Muzan was like, I'm sorry. He's like, I'm sorry. And then Subaru laughed a little bit because he said sorry by accident. And then Muzan's like, that's not funny, I just mispronounced it. And they're laughing inside the head. And then Puck Susei has a smile and everything, and thought that he was, having a smile on Puck's fear. And Subaru saw this and said, no, I'm just talking to Muzan. And then Puck understands because Muzan's, a part of him in his mindscape and everything. So, yeah. Puck ended up saying, as long as you don't try anything evil, I guess, just don't try to destroy anything that's precious to me, or we will fight. I know I may lose, but that does not matter. Only thing that matters to me is that child's safety. Puck got up close to say that into his ear, and then he's like, oh no, I wouldn't do anything like that. And then they shook hands, and Subaru was like, can I pet you? And Puck was like, if you can catch me. And then started playing around, and Amelia's laughing a little bit. And Subaru catches Puck and pets Puck behind the ears, which actually causes Puck to blush a little bit, and actually felt very good to Puck. So while Subaru was petting Puck, Lily told Amelia we should probably go to the slums, because the outfit that she was wearing does not seem like anything that fancy people or rich people or anyone in the high wealth class or medium wealth class would wear. So the slum area is probably the best thing by process of elimination. And Amelia and Puck are shocked how smart he is. It's because he was taught by Muzan himself. This man is smart as hell. So they like, go into the slums. Start walking down the streets into the slum area. And, Amelia's trying to chat with Subaru. And Amelia's starting to develop a little bit of a crush on Subaru. Because, he actually knew about all the stuff that they called her. Because, Muzan told him about that stuff. And he didn't actually mind. And that's what made her have an actual crush on him. Because he didn't actually care if she was a half-elf. He actually told her straight up, I don't care what race they are, as long as they're pure, innocent, or just not mischievous in any way, I will help them with all my heart content. Which made Amelia blush. Puck blushed from just hearing that, and thought he was really chivalrous. Was actually very kind. So, yeah, they went to the slums, they saw this one guy, and Subaru asked, is there a person known as actual Felt, by chance? And then the guy said, what's it to you? And then he said, Felt has stolen something. And then he was like, that's nothing new. Felt's probably in your old hut. Or maybe not even here. We don't really know. And then Muzan says, he's lying. Subaru said, yep, I know. And then he just grabs him by the collar and says, I don't like people that lie to me. And Subaru looks into his eyes, and the guy's scared shitless because lifting up with one hand. This guy's actually pretty big, not the one in the anime. No, he's a big muscular guy. And then he said, oh, okay. He's probably with Old Man Rum. He's like, Old Man Rum? That sounds like alcohol. Disgusting. And just throws him to the side. Puck and Amelia were shocked and saw very much cruelty in his eyes when he did that. And then Subaru apologized for that horrible display and explains that he doesn't like people that lie to him, and he doesn't. It's also because of Muzan's influence, which Amelia asked who's Muzan, and then he says, Puck, can you explain that to her later? And Puck nods. They end up going towards Ram's place, and before they're about to go into the actual, the bar, all of a sudden, the creator of this video decides to stop the video here. Alright, wait until next time on What If Subaru Was Muzan's Reincarnation. If this can get at least 10 likes and at least 4 comments, or some comments, then I will continue this. Same with any other video. If you can get up to 10 likes, I will do part 2. But it has to get up to 10 likes for me to continue another part on any video. Or if I just feel like it, I might do it. Alright, so see you later. It's I, Wacky Anime What If, signing out.